Let's get back to the real elephant in the room here, because there is, like you said, a very real emerging body of evidence and literature suggesting, at least, that these, conventional polyester style clothing, think moisture wicking, stretchy, dry fit, Lululemon, like all of these brands, like the stuff that is admittedly very comfortable to wear, right? And has all of this, clothing tech, but it comes with risk. Like, what are the risks that you've explored here? What are you finding out about these compounds? What are they doing to testosterone? What are they doing to fertility? Is there actually any reliable evidence we can look at? Is there, a thread we can pull on here to learn more about this stuff?
Sure. So in short, the best way to summarize the whole thing is that conventional apparel in general has been found to be loaded with endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? And then underneath that EDC category, there are different types of these volatile organic compounds and inorganic compounds, right? So, PFAs and PFCs, perfluoroalkyl substances and chemicals and compounds, and then you have, which are also known as forever chemicals, right? And then you have phthalates, right? Everybody knows about those at this point. Very bad for the body. You have BPA, you have PVC, all of these chemicals that shouldn't be, definitely not in the body, and then we're coming to find out they shouldn't be on the body either, right? So we started diving into that, and if you ever head to the website in our references section, in our blog posts, we actually reference the science around these things a lot, and we get that question a lot, right? Well, where are you getting this information? There's been tons of studies, right? So there was a study done, I think it was done in 1992. There was 14 guys, and it was an observational study done around them, and they were monitored for 365 days, and they were wearing a polyester scrotum sling. For those of you who don't know, the scrotum is the ball sack, right? So they're wearing a cup made of polyester on their nads. And with that, I think it was 180 days into it, all of these men became azoospermic. So it means that their ejaculate didn't have any living sperm inside of it, right? Way. So it's essentially saying this is working as male contraception, right? So what happened was, and not to fear, I spent years and years and years wearing polyester underwear. In the end of the study, I think it took 80 to around 120 days where all of these men's levels, testicular size, sperm motility, everything normalized. And most of these guys ended up going and having children with their partners, which was a big part of the study as well. But the summary, I remember the last line in the study, it says, it's like, in short, polyester sling is a safe, inexpensive, and efficient form of male birth control.
Wow.
So when I read that, I thought to myself, okay, I don't think I'm trying to have that happen with my underwear, right? And if you're wearing boxer briefs, which are more compressing, which are actually the most popular style of underwear out there, that is essentially kind of like a polyester scrotum sling, right? So that was the thought there. And that's one of the biggest studies. And there's been tons of other ones that you can find in the references section on our site that have pointed to this being a legitimate scientifically backed issue. And that's when we kind of knew, all right, this has some urgency to it.
Yeah.
Right? There's real grounds for this. This is a mission, not just a business.
Yeah. And with anything, the research has to start somewhere, and I'm sure it will grow, and I'm sure parts of this movement will encourage it to grow. And I'm curious, I'm putting myself in that, even that terminology you said, they highlighted it as an effective form of male contraception, like it's a good thing, right? And I'm thinking back to my youthful brain of maybe even going well, is that the worst thing in the world? If I don't want to be running around and, making kids that I don't necessarily, I'm ready for in my life right now. I remember hearing once that if you got in a really hot bath, you can potentially make yourself impotent for a short window of time. So you're essentially saying that they are saying if you wear this stuff, it can make you infertile. But some people might be like, it's not that big of a deal. You said it comes back, that's good. It lowers the risks or whatever. But I'm sure that's not the only issue. What else is going on with this stuff?
Yeah, so I'll dive into this a little bit more. It started as testosterone optimization. And then once Pandora's box was open, we realized what else was going on, right? So these chemicals have been found and these materials have been found to cause all sorts of issues in the human body, right? Testicular cancers, azoospermia, right? Infertility, erectile dysfunction. Certainly there's the decrease in testosterone. But with all of these, the reproductive system and reproductive health is tied to everything else, right? So that's that concept of testosterone going down. It's not just about muscle and strength gain. Testosterone is responsible at a cellular level for cognition, skin, hair, and nail growth, cardiovascular health, libido and sex drive, obviously, muscle and strength growth. It's involved in so many bodily processes that we realized this wasn't just about that, right? So taking it a step further and trying to educate and tie it into everything else. You know, there's people who have experienced kidney issues because of some of these compounds. There's people who have experienced all sorts of dizziness and skin rashes and contact dermatitis, all these things that have happened because of these materials and chemicals that do tie it to the bigger picture of overall health, and not just being about, well, you know, I'm not worried about my fertility right now. Well, it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Your reproductive system is impacted as a whole, then the overall system is impacted as a whole.
Damn.
So,
What else are we learning? This is fascinating. What else are you guys digging into? What are we uncovering here? Like, how big of an issue is this? I'm guessing it's pretty bloody big. You know, everybody's wearing this stuff, right? What's going on?
I'd say it's pretty large. You know, testosterone specifically right now, over the last 3 to 5 decades, is down up to 50% in some cases, right? So there's been a lot of studies that have come out and pretty much have said in plain terms, you know, 23-year-olds have the testosterone of a 72-year-old man, right? Like, if that doesn't scare you, like, that's a problem.
I guess that's one of kind of the missions behind NADS in general. It's a radical health movement, right? You make one small decision that's going to have a benefit, or it's going to have a beneficial impact on you. Hopefully this leads you to start making smarter, less toxic decisions in the rest of your life, whether it's the food you eat, the things you wear, the things you put on your body and your body. So hopefully we start to see that trend kind of increase, as we already have. Is like the animal-based community over the last couple of years has just grown extensively. So hopefully we continue to start to see that trend continue.
Yeah. I respect this conversation too, as well, from the fertility perspective, because classically, until at least more recently, we've always just assumed that fertility issue was a woman's issue, right? We always look at the woman, what are they doing and what treatments do they need? And only recently we even starting to have this conversation that this fertility issue is also an issue of men's sperm motility and quality and overall health. And I love what you said about the testosterone piece. It's not just rah, go, build muscle. It's so much more. Your mood, your drive, your immune system, all those things that you alluded to. So if that is the case, and people are kind of going like, oh shit, you know, they're probably listening to this with their, you know, tight lycra underwear on, right? You've obviously got a solution here. NADS is a solution. What can we do? Like, I'm thinking most athleisure stuff, a lot of the stuff that people are wearing on a day-to-day basis. You know, I'm sitting here, I'm fully cottoned up now because of the influence of you guys and guys like Paul too. Cotton shorts, NADS on under these, cotton shirt. But at the same time, I don't really want to work out in this, right? It's uncomfortable, it's stuffy. I ideally want to be in a gym where I can be shirtless and shoeless, and that's great. But if I've got like the moisture wicking shorts on, but I'm wearing NADS to create that protective layer, is that good enough from your perspective? Because it's not that direct contact, would that be safe to say?
I think it's the best scenario you could have, right? If you really want those other moisture wicking aspects, as long as you have the organic cotton or any sort of organic fiber protecting the most important region, then you're doing your best you can. Because like you look at like bamboo viscose or hemp or modal, the micromodals, they all go through like chemically intensive processes. Like viscose and Tencel all comes from like pulverized wood pulp. And you got to imagine the process that you take a wood fiber to turn it into like a fabric fiber. It's quite the process. So yeah, as long as you're protecting the most important area, which is responsible for producing testosterone and all your other hormonal balances, I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah, cool. That's a good point, because it kind of parallels to something like seed oils. Right? Bear with me for a second, right? The fact that seed oils have to be so heavily treated, adulterated, descented, because they don't naturally produce abundant amounts of oil. Like, you know, go squeeze a safflower and see what happens, right? So you're taking something that's not designed to be that, you're hyper processing it, and then you're selling it as a healthy product. So you even alluded to this, all cotton's not even created equal. You said like pesticides. So what makes NADS different? What's the difference here between like, well, I thought bamboo was good, and is the grading to the cottons? What about, you know, other stuff, sneaky stuff, pesticide, dyes? Like, what's the story? What are you guys doing there to bring the best of the best?
So I'll let Dan touch on the GOTS certification, which is like the gold standard, but basically all it is throughout the farming process, all the way to the manufacturing process, there's no herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, which all contains PFAs and all these other forever chemicals that we already spoke about. So it just goes through a very stringent process and a lot of checking and making sure that nothing's being thrown into these things that have these chemicals included. Dan can probably tell more about the GOTS certification, but
Yeah, so that's kind of in short why we went with organic cotton, right? So when we were assessing the business as a whole, before we moved anything forward in terms of production, we said, okay, what's the best material here? Well, as a consumer, we thought organic cotton was the direction we want to go in, right? And there's a hierarchy involved with worst to best materials, and we said let's go with organic cotton because it's a naturally derived fiber, and there are certification bodies in place that can make sure that what we're actually putting out there is what we're saying it is.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that mean? Well, it means that there are companies out there that can put something out there, like let's just say it was this t-shirt, right? And let's say that this collar on this shirt is an accessory technically. This could be made from organic cotton and the rest of my shirt could be regular cotton. They can market this as organic.
No way.
Yeah. So like that's an issue. Yeah, it's an issue in itself, right? Just technically they're not wrong. The shirt has organic compounds in it now, right? So the thought is, how do we take that a step further, not be like everybody else? And how do we make sure that we're not cutting any corners, right? The one thing I don't believe in personally in personal life and professional life is just not to take shortcuts. It's kind of a little mantra I live by, right? So with that, GOTS, the Global Organic Textile Standard, is the leading certifying body for organic textiles. So with that, we said, okay, well, we need to make sure that we're partnering with a GOTS certified manufacturer.
Yeah.
So after a ton of research and legwork there, we found a reputable partner who makes awesome gear tailored to an active lifestyle, doesn't cut any corners on the certification, of course. So everything we're putting out there is backed by that. So it's establishing from cottonseed all the way to garment, a fully traceable pattern to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that there are no contaminants going into this, right? So
Cool.
with conventional cotton, the main concern is that there's pesticides and insecticides, and that there's also been more studies that have shown that with conventional washing cycles and laundering, these chemicals actually aren't coming out. Right? So like in short, yeah, you should probably wash your clothes before you wear them anytime, right? If they're conventional clothing. That said, there's no way to guarantee that these chemicals are going to come out, even if you wash it 10, 50, 100 times.
Hello, friends. If you enjoyed that clip, then you can watch the entire thing by heading to this link over here, or you can find us wherever you find podcasts by searching Radical Health Radio. If there's value here, please hit that like button. Let us know in a comment what your biggest takeaway was, and hit subscribe. Support the show as we support you. We'll see you soon.